Great conversations. Our breakout group could have gone on for a lot longer. And I really hope that we can all gather that information and learning in the chat and throughout the series of workshops that we have. But when I hear the phrase being human, I think of something messy, vulnerable, and almost sacred. To me, being human means being seen in your full complexity, not reduced to your worst moment, your life, your file, or your failures. It means being allowed to feel, to grow, and to make amends. And crucially, to be seen as someone still capable of belonging. But when I was 19, walking through the gates of prison for taking a man's life with a single punch, no one asked who I was as a human being. I became a headline, a cautionary tale, a case to be processed, a prison number, or a statistic. One officer printed out newspaper clippings about me, headlines that described me as a mindless thug or a killer. He handed them to me with the comments section still attached. Strangers I'd never met saying that I should rot in prison, that I was beyond saving, that I'm a monster. This was meant to change my mindset, shame me into reform. But all it did was deepen the belief that I wasn't human anymore, that I didn't belong to anything or anyone except maybe my criminal peer group. The truth is, any sense of citizenship or belonging had already evaded me long before I actually entered prison. But during that induction period, it felt like my social divorce was being finalized. In stark contrast to that shaming and dehumanizing approach adopted by one prison officer, something very different happened on the anniversary of the death of the man that I punched. The prison chaplain came to see me. He didn't bring articles, he didn't judge or preach. He simply asked if I wanted a quiet space, to light a candle, say a prayer, or just sit in silence. For me, and for the man whose life I had taken. That was one of the first moments in prison where I felt something human stirring again. Not in the spite of the harm I'd caused, but because someone allowed me to face it without stripping me of my dignity. Later, when I began writing my book, Right from Wrong, I realized that what changed me wasn't the system. It was these human encounters, the chaplain, visits from family, and most of all, the parents of the young man I killed. They who chose to meet me and ask me the kind of questions no judge or police officer ever did. They said they didn't say you are a bad person, but they said you did a bad thing. Not what punishment do you deserve, but who are you now? What are you willing to take responsibility for? And who do you want to be? That conversation didn't erase the harm, but it gave me a way to begin living with it and trying to repair what I could. The truth is, systems don't transform people, relationships do. So here's the provocation I want to leave with you. What is justice? No, what if justice started not with rules and risks, but with relationships and recognition of humanity? What if our systems were designed to protect and restore what is most human in everyone involved? What would that look like in practice? Because if crime hurts society, justice should heal it. And here's what I've learned. Punitive, dehumanizing approaches might silence people, but they really change people. Shame doesn't produce remorse, it hardens, it isolates, it shuts people down. Accountability doesn't begin with humiliation, it begins with humanization. When we treat people as if they're capable of growth, of belonging, of contributing, that's when change becomes possible. That's when someone can start to trust again, to reconnect with themselves and other people, to imagine a future version of themselves they can live with and even potentially be proud of. Healing isn't soft, it's courageous, and it starts with how we choose to see one another. Compassion focused systems, which Karen in our group mentioned, seems to kind of hit the nail on the head as well. And all the conversations that we're having around how we be more human and how we, give that space to people to be triggered, to have a bad day, to say something they don't mean, and to allow them to kind of come back to themselves and to their communities. And so that's kind of all I really wanted to say for my stimulation. And thank you all for listening and being part of this process as we envision a more human system and try and navigate our way there.